All right, guys, let's remove the transmission. I've done this a few times. Now this will be my third or fourth or fifth time, I think. And I'm going to kind of go over real quick the things you got to do to remove it. First of all, you don't need a lift, but it is nice to have a car lift. But the wheels have to come off, right and left, both. So if you're going to do it, put it up on stands. The battery needs to come out. Sometimes you have the battery protector and all that on there. I just have removed all that stuff. The battery needs to come out. The air cleaner needs to come out. You just grab on it, pull it. After you take this one bolt out, there's one Allen key there. And to get these off, the best way is to put something in here, pry this a little bit, push it closed, and pull it back off. That's how those come off. You get better at taking those off after you've done it like 6-7 times. So we've got to take this piece out. So I'm going to go ahead. This has 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. Let's take that out. What I decided to do in this video is I'm going to take parts of this. I'm going to speed it up so you guys can really see it quickly, so you can kind of get an idea of how to do your own. So I've kind of gone over a few things. Then I'm going to let you guys watch in a higher speed, and that'll be a little bit easier because you'll see everything go by very quickly. Talk to you guys later in the video. We'll just keep going. Alright, so one more bolt, and I just take this one out right here, and I take the fans and drop them down to the ground. Slide them out, they go out through the bottom. I don't know, I might need to take off, well, I think they kind of go like this and then down. The starter needs to come out. There's a bolt behind the starter. I've already got all the bolts from underneath. The transmission linkage, I usually do that from the top right here. It's got like one of these on it, 12 point. One of these little sets from Amazon is always worth it. They have this little set on Amazon. Fairly inexpensive, something to buy. I would definitely want to have that before you start doing the job. So all I need to do is take off, and you can do this either two ways. You can either take off the hose clamps here, and I would pinch these with a pair of vice grips to hold them, move them out of the way. Or you can take off these three, and then take off this oil cooler itself off the transmission. I'm going to elect to do it with the oil cooler off because I'm going to change the O-rings. It's always a good idea. A lot of times those O-rings can leak in the future. And put neoprene ones on. All they are is just O-rings. So you can get the neoprene O-ring set if you want, and it works fine. I wouldn't put rubber ones on. They'd sell them at the dealer. If you want to buy them there, go for it. So there's one 10 millimeter down here for the what's it called, the linkage. One here, and then there's two again of these down there. Those need to come off, and once all that's off and the starter's out and the bolt that's behind it is out, then you can proceed to support the engine and transmission with whatever you're going to use. I'm going to use a transmission jack because the problem with this car getting the transmission out is this back portion of it is really hard to get around and over the flywheel. It's really tight to get back in, and usually you have to tilt the engine way down at this point, when you get to go at the first part to put it back in. So be prepared for that. It goes way down. Watch out for your coolant pipes and stuff like that, not to break them, but it goes way down, and then put it up and over, and it goes back in that way. And it's a really tight fit. It does take a while to get it to that point. The other trick is when you get these all off, we'll get it off and get it out in a second. When you go to put it back in, usually what I do is I'll start underneath the starter right here and down below. It's easy to get. You can get it from the top, but you can't see it right now. It's down here right below the starter. Not the one behind the starter, but there's one below it. The large long bolt, I usually will start that one first. And once I get that one started, I'll run it in, not really tight, but just snug. And then I'll back it back out a little bit. And then I'll move the engine and transmission around a little bit, and usually it just kind of pops back right into place. And I tighten that one down. And then I'll put the one on the far end, on the bottom, in at the same, so I'll use those to kind of pull it back into place. And that usually gets it. It doesn't just go all the way. It's not like a stick shift transmission where you push it in and it just goes all the way in. It doesn't usually do that. You usually have to kind of force it into place. And I never broke a bell housing on one of these from tightening those down that way. So that's the way I do it. But anyway, putting it back in is a little challenge. That's the hardest part of the job, is actually getting the transmission back in the car. And then the rest of it, just like any other transmission, and it is very heavy. So let's move on. Alright, again, so I removed the last bolt from the fans. They come down to the ground. They don't come up, they go down. So you just slide them down there. It's wiggling, it's a little tight. I think you do need the fans out. Somebody commented that before when I did it, but I just pull them out because it gives you a little more space in here to work anyways. So the next thing is we got to take off this wire plug. Now, how you do that on this plug here is you twist it. This little lever right here. Twist it counterclockwise. There's like a little lever on there, and then it stops, and you just pull it out. So this is the lever. That thing right there is the lever. There's a mark on here so that it tells you where to put the top or whatever. Sometimes these can be very difficult to get back in. You just got to take your time and make sure it just goes right in. Sometimes it takes me 30 minutes to get one of those just plugged in every once in a while. Depends on the car. I got two of these cars, so both of them are, this one's a little harder than the other one is. So the only thing holding the engine and transmission in right now is this mount, and there's a mount there for the engine. So this needs to be supported at this point. So what I need to do is I got my transmission jack underneath the car. There. I'm going to go ahead and support the engine, the oil pan. Some guys say not to support the engine oil pan because they break. I haven't broke one yet. And I don't know how many times I've done this job. Way too many. So I don't know. But I'm going to support it. Just be careful. It is aluminum. It's an aluminum oil pan. And the old Volkswagens were magnesium. We used to jack them up all the time. Just don't put too much weight on there. You know, be conscientious of the fact that it is made out of aluminum. It could crack or break. Some of the guys will say to use a support bar across the top. You can do that too if you want to do it that way. There's a hook right here, and you put a support bar across and then hook and hold it that way. Or you can use an engine hoist to hold this end of it. Again, that's all up to you how you want to do it. So once that's supported, and I support the transmission, I'm going to use two jacks. This is very heavy. This is a heavy transmission for its size. Volkswagen spares no, I don't know what you say, but they don't go cheap on their steel. It's one thing they don't do. So their steel is very heavy. So I'm going to support the transmission, support the engine. A transmission jack is almost necessary for this to do this because you need to really tilt it around and stuff. You can do it with a floor jack, but beware when you're putting it back in, you're going to swear it won't go in. So anyway, so now at this point I've only got, for me, what I always do is I leave these two in. I've got 1, 2 holding the transmission in right here so I can reach them. I'll be crawling underneath with my jacks under there. It's too hard to do. And I've got 1, 2, 3 right here. I use my impact gun to take those off. I use my electric Harbor Freight electric earthquake ratchet. Let's see, this one's right here, one right there, one right there, and don't forget, there's one inside the starter. People forget that one. So if you take those two out and it doesn't move, maybe you forgot your starter one. The one that inside this, you have to take the starter out and it's behind it. It's just so you know, I've said that in a couple other videos, but I thought I'd just make a different video. So we're going to go ahead and take these off. I'll have you guys stay on the sideline here and watch how it goes in a little bit faster speed. So now it's ready to come out. Now is when the struggle really begins. I may just throw you guys back on the sideline just so you can just see. Maybe it'll help you see how to get it out. Some people take out this tube. I think I leave it in, if I recall correctly. It does get in the way. It's a real pain with it there, but it's really a pain to take it out because you got one here, you got one underneath this pipe, so you got to take this thing out. You got to take this hose off to get to it. You got to take that clamp off, and then there's another one behind in there. Yeah. And then there's another one on the bottom. You have to take off of that pipe to get it out of there. It's kind of a pain. So I usually just leave it in place. Alright, so anyway, don't forget the cables. These are off. And this thing slides out like that. That's out of the way. Let's look at you guys up closer. Move that thing out of the way. See here? There's two bolts there. Hold it in. Those already took out. They have those triple squares on them. Yeah. Okay. This is the hard part. Getting it out of the car is always tricky. Getting it back in is actually the hardest part. This isn't that part. This part isn't that bad in comparison. The time I last paused, that was a 17-minute fight to get that out of there. And it kind of fell to the ground. You know, that's kind of the way they like to come out. Hopefully they don't damage anything. That's the thing you look for. Try not to damage anything taking it out. Something might have got broken. It's kind of heavy. I don't know what that is. Oh, one of the wiring holders. What else is new? Anyway, that's kind of the way it comes out. It's not, you can, other thing you can do is there's like 6 bolts to the front, to all the front suspension. You can loosen all those down and drop it down. But if you do that, you should replace all those bolts there. They have the torque specs on them, and they, you know, and you may have to get the car realigned because sometimes the frame gets a little bit out of whack. Had that happen before. So I try to do it without it now. So that's where the flywheel is. That's your flywheel there. DMF flywheel. That's not getting replaced this time. I'm doing clutches. Come back for the video on the clutches, and we'll put a clutch pack in here. There is a couple different ways you can buy the clutches. If you want to buy them, you can buy them individually, or you can buy the whole set. I would not buy them individually. I would only buy the set. You've been warned, so you don't want to do this job twice. This is my second time, so figure that out. I'm not going to discuss it really, but buy the clutch set, buy German parts. Like Cascade, Volkswagen has these, or Cascade German has these, the best price. That's like less than $500, all German, original Volkswagen equipment. It's good stuff. And the fluid, they have that very cheap too. That's why I elected to take off the filter, because I'm going to do all new fluid and a new filter. This wasn't even 80 bucks for that. Place is very inexpensive for Volkswagen parts. If you don't have them yet, order what you need from them. They really check their prices, at least. You know, check a few different places, but make sure it's a reputable place. If you go on the TDI Club, they have places that are reputable, and that's one of them. It's Cascade German. Also, some of the others that they have on there are reasonable. Also, Auto House Arizona, I don't know if they're listed on there, but they have a lot of German parts as well, and sometimes they have it cheaper, like on a turbo. They might have that cheaper than everybody else, something like that. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Hopefully that helps you get through your transmission removal. Getting it back in is a different story. It's going to take you a good 2 hours to get it from the ground up into the car, probably. That's usually what it takes me, and I've kind of done it before even, and it's not any easier the next time you do it, just so you know. It requires you to getting this thing here over the flywheel is where your issue always is. As soon as you get that over the flywheel, you can start jacking it around, it'll go right in. And then once it mates up, you just get that one bolt right here in the front started, run it in. Usually I'll run it down, not really tight, but a little bit tight, and then back it back out once, tighten it down a couple times, and then I'll usually kind of get one of the other bolts in, not usually the top two. Those don't usually help you. It's got to be this one in, and then you'll get this side in. Once you get this side in and this one in at the same time, it will just pop right in place. And usually they don't go just like right in. They take a little bit of a, see how this is round, the end of it. It kind of takes a little bit of abuse to get in the hole, and it will go right in. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video again. Please like, share, and subscribe. See your comments. Talk to you then.